Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is your boy Jay Mason. Welcome to another episode of Beyond the Album Cover, where we get inside the entertainment industry with those in the know and give them their flowers right here be celebrated. With me right now, I have a brother. If you catch him DJing in and around the Queen City and beyond, he's gonna give you that and then some when he's on the wheels and steals, the ones and twos with the skills that pays the bills. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a big thank you, a round of applause for the one and only my guy, DJ Big Al. Big Al, thank you for coming on Beyond the Album Cover, bro. And how are you?
Hey man, thank you for even having me, brother. Thank you. I
Man,
appreciate
I man, I appreciate you just taking the time out of your day to come chop it up with little old me. So we're gonna jump right on in. So where were you born? And also, what was the first memory you've had of hearing songs on the radio or seeing videos on TV? Let's start there.
oh my gosh. Born in I think Orangeburg, South Carolina. Born, raised there. Um, just watching TV, BET, MTV, just really sparked it for me. And then what really got me was radio. Um, that's what really got me into the music.
Yeah, man. And on radio, I was just looking at CBS this morning. They did a piece on Facebook and YouTube a couple of days ago stating how radio is still trying to find its niche with everything being digital and consumers being able to not do like what we did when we were coming up, where you literally had to wait for the station to play your record. Whereas now I can go to Spotify, any streaming service, and just get it instant. But no, back then you had to wait. And if you missed it, you had to wait till it came around again when you had your Memorex, TDK, Scotch, or those Radio Shack or Kmart cassette tapes ready to
Exactly.
record.
Exactly. It's crazy now because back then you had to figure out who the artist was. If the people didn't say it on the radio who the artist was, you had to figure that stuff out. You had to hear it like a couple of times before it really blew up on the radio before we even got to know who the artist was. Today's world, Shazam got everything. Just
Yeah,
Shazam anything you want, you can find out the artist, the title, everything.
yeah, you literally had to wait for everything. Whereas the only way you kind of knew that information was like if you had an inside plug at the radio station or knew somebody at the local record store who was real knowledgeable about music and they could give you the info on who was singing what and what album that track was on.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Now, what was the big radio station down in Orangeburg?
Well, from where I'm from, we didn't really have. Well, we had one on campus at South Carolina State University, which was WSSB. But our main radio station came from Columbia. You had the big DM radio station, um, which played mostly everything. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
Um, it was just they play everything that you would want to hear. Um, that's my memory from back in the 80s. You know, it was just crazy, man.
Yeah, because I didn't think WWDM would reach that far to Orangeburg. For those that don't know, WWDM, the big DM, 101 FM, powerhouse radio station in and around Columbia, Midlands, and I believe, I'm not sure if Chris Connors is still on the big DM, but he was an alum of WQOK K97.5, who I used to listen to a lot as a kid growing up in North Carolina. But you mentioned Orangeburg, South Carolina, and with South Carolina State University being in Orangeburg, and I believe Clafton is in Orangeburg as well. But for those that don't know about South Carolina State in Orangeburg, Google the Orangeburg Massacre. That was
Yeah.
from when local students were trying to integrate a bowling alley in Orangeburg. I believe Dr. Cleveland Sellers was a part of that movement, trying to integrate that bowling alley, and that's was what most people, when you think of South Carolina State and Orangeburg, you think of that moment in time right there with the movement when everything was starting to change in our country as far as integration and wanting to have a seat at the table.
Oh yeah, yes, that's the history right there. That was it. That was it.
Hmm. Now, what led you to go to Clapton?
It's a long story.
Please tell. We got time. We
We're gonna
got
cut it.
time.
We're gonna cut it short. I was at OC Tech um at first. A good friend of mine that passed, God bless the dead, Robert Phillips. His mom um knew my mom and she worked at Claflin. And she told my mom, tell Al to come in, register next week and come over here to Claflin. He don't need to be at OC Tech. He need to be at Claflin, da da da. Um, I don't know if you know DJ Frosty.
No, can't say I do.
Yeah, okay. So DJ Frosty, he was one of the top DJs coming out back then. He was real, younger, but DJ Frosty, um, Robert Phillips, they were brothers, and that's his mother that really, pushed me to go to Claflin.
Okay. Now you get into Clapton. Now South Carolina State and Clapton, they are like literally stone's throw away. Now, was it where everybody was going to each other's campuses, or was it where everybody was kind of keeping that little invisible wall where South Carolina State only hung on campus and Clapton only hung on Clapton's campus, and the two never really mixed or intermingled?
Nah, homecomings, everybody was on each other campus every day, all day. We all mingle. That's one thing about it. You will never hear a whole lot about the two campuses rival. It was never like that. Claflin show love the way they show love.
Mhm.
Um, and that's how it always been. We all, I mean, everybody got along. It wasn't nothing, like, some schools, two colleges there, two black colleges, you see a lot of da, but it was none of that. None of that.
Okay. Okay, so pretty much it was pretty much unity amongst the two schools, like how you kind of see in here with all the schools in the AUC down in Atlanta with Clark Atlanta, Spelman, Morehouse, Morris
Yeah.
Brown back in the day. Everybody just mixed and mingled among each other. Now, when hip hop was coming into play and you had DJ Cruz and everything like that, was it where people were kind of poaching from the campuses saying, "Hey, I'm gonna go join this crew," and vice versa? Or was it where everybody was kind of keeping their distance because of that sense of competition of wanting to be top dog?
No, we never really had that down there. It was never, no DJ Cruz was this and DJ Cruz was that. Everybody got along. Everybody got along. It was like never like no type of animosity, beef towards each other.
Hmm. Now, how was the talent on campus as far as rapping, singing, and people trying to get their foot in the door in the game in the business?
Um, a lot of hidden gems. A lot of hidden gems down there. It's crazy that you say that because I just posted today on Facebook um about my homeboys from Orangeburg. Big shout out to Mimi Green, Brian Dantzler, Curtis Boy, Jawan Adams, Real Gaddis, and rest in peace to my boy Travis. Um, they in the early 90s, um, they went from campus to campus singing. They started making a buzz around Orangeburg. Started making a buzz. And it got to the point where, I mean, they started to really blow. Um, a lot of people, they was in talent shows. They won by every talent show that you can think of. to be honest with you. It got to the point where they wouldn't even let them perform anymore. You know what I'm saying? Because they was winning everything. Um, and man, that was like one of the moments for me, knowing all of them, watching them grow, um, watching them reach their peak. Um, Granted, they didn't get the the major deals that they wanted to, but they still represent Orangeburg in a good way,
Hmm.
in a
Yeah,
great way.
yeah, and this was back during the era where it's not like how it is now, where you could just upload online and go straight to the source, where you really had to put the legwork and hope that somebody can see you. You make your buzz doing the talent show circuit, and then you'll go to a bigger city where maybe, hey, artist ABCD is performing at blah 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 at Anytown USA. Let me go ahead, slide my demo, or pull a Boys to Men and sneak backstage, and hopefully somebody can hear us and then start a momentum. So was there a point to where those guys, once their buzz got big enough in Orangeburg, that they started to say, hey, we need to try to make our way to Columbia because we know that with any major tour, they're probably going to make a stop in Colombia before maybe going further down to Atlanta and whatnot, what have you, to try and get that major label recognition.
To be honest with you, man, their name was buzzing all over South Carolina. To be honest with you, their name was buzzing from Orangeburg, Columbia to the upstate, Charleston. Everybody knew them because you got to realize everybody that's on campus is from different places.
Hmm.
And so, once people heard them, they put, how it was. You hear somebody good, they put yo, check this group out, or yo, man, these boys are good, da da da. So it was more or less um their name just, I'm gonna say overnight, but I know it really wasn't overnight. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
And it was to the point where they ended up moving to New York. And that's when their buzz in the music industry started really buzzing then.
Yeah, and once you get up there and you have industry heads talking, that's where back then they would do a little thing called a showcase, where you
Yeah.
go perform for different labels, either the heads or A&R, or anybody who's associated with the label, and it was pretty much basically sing for your supper, really.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. That's how labels work funny back then, but if you didn't know how to read the contract, or you didn't know, I mean, and it's crazy now because I was just listening to a podcast. I was listening to Manny Fresh and Juvenile podcast today,
Hmm.
and they was talking about how they had a falling out with Birdman. Well, Juvenile did, and he didn't want to really deal with them no more. It was over money. And then when, as they was talking about, you know, Juvie even said, "Man, we didn't know how to do these contracts." And come to find out, the lawyers that Birdman and them had, they wasn't no industry lawyers. So it was to the point where he couldn't get mad at Birdman and them because they didn't know that he wasn't no industry lawyer. So they ended up you know getting everything back that they deserved to have. And and it's just crazy because I hear a lot of artists say, well, new artists back then who was coming into the game, they didn't have the proper guidance with these contracts.
Hmm.
I mean, and you hear from some of the biggest artists in the world, and they'll tell you, my first contract, I should have never signed it. Roxanne Shante even said that about her first contract.
Mhm.
She never signed. She didn't make no money off. So, these record companies was really kind of like jerking you if you didn't really know what you was getting yourself into.
Right. Right, I agree because a lot of times you come to the game, you see the stars, the lights, the glitz and glamour, but it's a business first, 90%, 10% show. Now there was a clip on Drink Champs where Kwame was breaking down a scenario. Let's say if artist John Doe was getting X amount of dollars up front for publishing, whereas if I hold out for X amount of months, I could be able to get more off the back end and get an administrative deal to where I can own the record and not have to go through XYZ publishing company to get permission to license or use my song for a particular piece in a film or somebody wants to sample, whatnot, what have you. Because when it comes to certain cases, it's on a case by case basis where artist EDFG gets song sampled by JKLM and artist BCDE didn't know that JKLM sampled the record without getting clearance with them, but little did that artist know that ABCD Publishing Company owns the record. So they can deny or give the green light for that without artists say so because artists don't have the original ownership rights to the record because when they signed the contract to the publishing deal, you gave the publishing company rights to do clearance for your records for samples. And plus, they're getting a big fat cut off your record and you're just probably getting just scraps or crumbs.
Exactly. 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 That's how I learned how the music business work. I used to just listen to different people, how they talk, different artists,
Mm-hmm.
how they spoke about their record deal and this and that. Back then everything was on points. He was on a point system.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just listen to some of the things that my boys like Finesse them was telling me the things they was going through with these different labels, and I was like, "Oh, they can really do that?" He's like, "Yeah, they can really do that." So you have to be careful of the contract that you sign, and sometimes who you sign with.
Mm-hmm. Now I'll say this as well. Because you may have, at least back then, some labels like, hey, we're hot to want to sign you right now, but offers a 24-hour offer. If you choose to pull it off the table, deal's off.
Deal was off. Deal was off, and they told me, they had a couple of deals like that. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to tell their
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah, 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 yeah.
story to you. I would rather them tell it to you than me. But I can just some of the things that they just told me of things that they went through.
Right. And yeah, when you kind of get in that high pressure cooker situation where it's almost literally you're having an imaginary gun to the head where it's like, if I don't sign this, I ain't getting no deal. And everybody's like, sign the deal, sign the deal, sign the deal. Forget everything else. Let's just sign. And then you sign, and then you find out after the fact, like, oh, this is a bad deal. Kind of like if you remember in the New Edition story, the miniseries, when Michael Bivins had found out that New Edition wasn't signed directly to MCA. They were signed to Fast Break Productions, which actually wasn't the name of the company. I ain't gonna say the name because I ain't trying to get sued. But if you know, you know. So when he pulls up to Gerald Busby's office, rest in peace, and confronting him about it, that's when Gerald Busby, who was head of MCA, the Black Music Department at the time before he leaving to go to Motown, and was explaining to Mike, hey, this is the game. You're gonna get got your first deal. And technically, you work for Fast Break Productions. You don't work directly for MCA. Whatever Fast Break Productions want to pay you, they can because they have first dibs on everything that you get. And because of that, That's why you had some artists who were signed to those type of deals having to go to the major label like, hey, give me XYZ dollars so that you can buy me out of this contract so I can record directly for the label and not through a third party.
Yeah, yeah. It was a lot of that. It was a lot of that. Matter of fact, I listened to The Breakfast Club
Hmm.
a couple of weeks ago, and they had New Edition and Boys to Men on
Hmm.
there. And Boys to Men went through the same thing, or very similar to what New Edition went through. And they was talking about that. But yeah, man, if you didn't know, you didn't know. And back then, you have to be you had to be careful with signing a contract. Yeah, it looks good and it sounds good, but if you don't know how to read that fine line and people don't realize just one word can mess a whole contract up, that's facts.
Hmm.
And or those little words could really mess up a whole contract for you.
Yeah, and perpetuity too, because not a lot of people don't know what perpetuity means. That means forever. That's why you kind of see with some of these older artists, a lot of their materials are not available on streaming because when these contracts were configured, they didn't factor in new streams, forms of media to come about. And I think now they're trying to figure out how do we factor in a 30 plus year old contract to figure in for streaming, whereas depending on the contract, all the original masters reverts back to the artist after X amount of years of fulfilling the contract. So it's just a game of, not knowing the business when you first get in and only getting schooled to it after the fact once you realize that, hey, this check is not as big as I thought it was going to be, especially if you're in a group because you got to split it X amount of ways with group members. But that's before everybody else eats off the plate before you. Managers, labels got to recoup their money. You got blah, 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 blah that's eating off the plate. Then you're left to split the crumbs. And then also, too, if you signed a bad deal, Joe Smo executive is considered 1/6, 1/5 member of the group and gets a cut of that portion. That was kind of the scenario that Backstreet Boys and NSYNC had to deal with when they were dealing with Lou Pearlman, and both of them ended up getting out of those deals. And NSYNC ended up going over the job after getting out of their RCA contract. And like I said, it's just primarily when you come into the game, you necessarily don't think of the business end because you're seduced by being on TV, being famous, jet setting around the world. But if you think about it, those contracts and how they are structured, it's pretty much just like a bad, bad, bad payday loan.
Yeah, yeah. And you most definitely right. Because I mean you got if you got like a 5, 6 man, even a 3 man group, I mean you still have to split that 3, 4, 5 different ways. You still got to pay your lawyers, producers, managers, role manager. I mean, everybody. So that money, it looks good and it sounds good, but until you do the math on it and see what it's really going to be after you pay all these people,
Mhm.
that's where, like, well, you ain't making no money off this.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You ain't making no money. And it's sad, now, like back then, I don't think people really understood about royalties. You know what I'm saying? I don't think a lot of them didn't really, probably, and some people didn't really think high enough of that. But the royalties means a whole lot. And it's, you see, I was looking at the podcast from Fat Joe and Jada.
Hmm.
When they had De La Soul on there. And it's sad that was it Pasta one that no Mace, the one, not Mace.
True Goy.
Yeah, the one that passed. He wasn't even able, he passed before they can even get their own royalties. You know what I'm saying? So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he wasn't even able to even see that. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like things like that, it means a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And it means a lot. Because that's
Right.
money.
Yeah, that is money because when you think about when you do those filings with either BMI, ASCAP, Sound Exchange, and you do those split sheets. Split sheets, that's if you write something on a song, you put down, okay, this person did this much, that person did this much, that person did this much, and you turn it into one of those publishing houses, and that way you could possibly get those quarterly checks. Now, like I said, most of the time, you're not going to know this stuff unless you study the business for going in, or you have one of the rare people in the business that's not a wolf and is looking to look out for you and not jerk you and really tell you what the game really is.
True. That's facts. That's facts. That's facts.
Mhm. Yeah, because when you look at, you know, artists who necessarily didn't reap the rewards of having top selling albums, but knowing that we got to make our bread and butter off of touring and you're constantly out on the road, that's when you make a good chunk of your money off of shows doing tours. And you're only going to get your cut after the promoter gets theirs, venue gets theirs. Because for those that don't know, when you book a show, you got to have insurance for the venue. If you don't have insurance for the venue, no show.
Right now, that's the same thing about DJing. They doing the same thing with, DJing right now. You gotta have insurance for that. You know what I'm saying? Um, it's a lot that comes with it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'll tell anybody, just learn, especially any new artist, um, learn the business side first
Mm-hmm.
before you jump heads into just want to make some music. Learn the business side,
Mm-hmm.
because if you don't know the business side, you don't know what you really signed in. You don't know
Right.
what you're going to be making.
Yeah, you going in blind now. It kind of feels as if with because of the internet and you been able to go direct, it's almost reverting back to the days of artists being independent when you're selling records out of the trunk and you're hoping for a major to come sign you off of your indie buzz. Whereas now, if you got your clicks, your likes, you got your buzz virally, and that shows that hey, I got a own following on my own grassroots. Why do I need a major label for? The only thing you would need to do is just find your distro company that can distribute your stuff directly, have your mailing list with all of your fans so that you can go direct to them and you could pretty much sell it yourself. You can pretty much do what the majors would do for you on your own.
And that's the reason why social media is what it is. Because as artists, you can put your music out there to just get a little buzz first on what Instagram, Facebook. You can promote your own self now. You really don't need, you know, major labels to do certain things for you.
Mhm.
You can promote your own self now
Right.
easily. You know,
Hmm.
back then you had different rec labels. They had their own street teams
Hmm.
where they would go and put your flyers out for you. Um, had them in a foam on their on their booth. They'll tag them on the walls. Just different things. Like they'll just give out different things. Hey, this album coming out November 18th. Da 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 da.
Hmm.
Where now you ain't gotta do none of that.
Right.
You can just promote your own self, and there it is.
Yeah, gone are the days of the street teams. Just remember posting up posters for XYZ album going to coming out on the window, put it on somebody's car, on a
Hmm.
lamppost. I don't know if you saw the documentary that was on Netflix about a year or so ago about the history of Freaknik. Have you?
I didn't see it. I didn't see it.
Okay, so I'll just talk about this little piece that's on the documentary. So they were talking about how LaFace was starting up, cranking. This was around 94. And this
Mhm.
is right around when Outkast was getting ready to drop. So what they ended up doing was they recognized, hey, we got all these college students from across the country for Freaknik. So we're gonna go out. We're gonna have this cassette sampler of Outkast. This before 7 Player Listed. And because of the buzz off of the cassette sampler, that what led to people wanting to go ahead and get 7 Player Listed once Outkast dropped. Now the buzz was already starting thanks to Players Ball, which was on the LaFace Christmas compilation. So to think one of the greatest rap groups of all time got buzz off of a Christmas compilation album, and then that led to the career that we all know and love today, and they just got inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
And to be honest with you, I was one of those people that had that cassette.
Oh, you had the Outkast cassette sampler?
I did. I I did. I did. And that's what led me to when I heard it, I said, shit dope. And then yeah, that's what really put me on to them. I
Mm.
had
Hope you still got it somewhere, cause I know it's probably worth some
you know
money
what?
now.
And I think I still let me tell you something. I have a box, huge box. I still got cassette tapes from the radio stations, from Mr. Magic, Molly Mall, Red Alert, Chuck Chill Out, um, anybody who you could probably think of. I still have those tapes, the Ron G tapes, the doo wop tapes, um, but any DJ you could probably think of, I still have them. And
Wow.
it's I can't even separate myself from them.
Wow. Yeah, I wouldn't either. Now, you mentioned some big names when it comes to the mixtapes: Ron G's, Doo Wop, Mr. Magic, and those likes. And this was back during the era where this was pre internet, of course. So the only way you really got that was if you knew somebody directly or indirectly that was from New York and they passed it down. They let you borrow the tape, you dub it, and then the
Yep,
next person dub it, and then it goes on like that.
that's exactly what happened too. Because me personally, I've always been a big New York head, New York's type music. Um, Back in the days, that's when man, I just I just had like I say some of the classics. Um, and then my boy Malik, we call him Black, he was selling these tapes 3 for 5. I mean 3 for 15, like always, and he already knew I'm coming every week. You already know what I like. When you test it out, you just put it to the side. I'll be there to come pick them up, and that's what happened. And that's how I really got into. I already had the love for actual DJing back
Mhm.
then, but just to hear different artists, I mean, just to hear different DJs, it bring different their just bring different flavor
Mhm.
to their mixtape. Like Doo Wop, he was the one who could he would rap in his at the beginning of tape, and his intro was so hot
Mhm.
to you would want to hear the whole thing.
Mhm.
Um, Ron G, he was the doggone Bling King, you know. And what really caught my eye was watching where I was there in that era with DJ Shot Kim, who is now a New Edition DJ. Watch him from college. Because, even though I wasn't on the yard with them, I was over there every day and watch him do block parties and all these different parties. Then I would tell people, say, shout out my reason to get kicked out of college my freshman year, because I was trying to go to every party. I was just trying, and the thing is, I went to these parties, but I didn't always go to just party. I'll go and I could sit and I'll watch a DJ and won't, I'll sit in the chair and just watch a DJ because I'll be trying to pick up things. Like I can hear things. I want to see how they're going to trans transition from this song to that song. Or, just the little things that they, did, because I was amazed by it.
Mm.
So when I got the opportunity to just see it for myself, if you had a dope DJ who knew what they was doing,
Right.
I'll sit right there and I'll keep bobbing my head all night long. You won't hear a word from me.
Right. Right. And the cool thing
I
about
was
that,
studying because I was studying the actual craft without doing anything. You just do it in your head.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Like you mentioned, studying the craft by tagging along, going to a party and whatnot. And that's the cool thing with, some DJs who allow somebody that wants to get into the game to come and tag along, showing the ropes, while others are a little more close to the vest. They're kind of looking at somebody new coming in as, okay, they're trying to take my spot. So I ain't gonna share everything with you. So it all depends on who the person is, when I what have you. So talk about DJ Shakim's rise and where he is now, where he's the tour DJ for New Edition. New Edition getting ready to go out on tour, top of the year with themselves, Boyz II Men, Tony Braxton, New Edition Way Tour. So get your tickets now if you haven't gotten them already. They're selling out fast. So let's talk about DJ Shakim's rise and just to see where he is now.
Man, when I tell you Shaw had Orangeburg on lock, and he still have it on lock, even though he's not there, but every so often, if his name is on the flyer, I don't care what other party you might go to, but they ain't gonna be there. So you might as well go ahead and just change your part to a whole nother date or a whole nother time, because they show Shaw so much love and respect, because Shaw is, the person I know him of, he's just so grounded, so grounded. I mean, I've been there watching Shaw at a party and he just go off, but under the leg, behind the back, da 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 da. And I'm like, bro, how do you do that? And I'm just asking myself, like, how did he just do that? Because that was me trying to learn it. I still can't do it right nowadays, but I know what they are doing now, just by watching, just by watching them, and just by DJing now. Like I know certain things now that I didn't even know back then. But it was just the fact, man. Shy. I mean, I don't know what you can say about him, man. The boy is just good. I mean, he had good at what he do. He's a grounded person. I've reached out to him a couple of times about different things, and get back with me. Like it's, how some people, they fame is up to there, and
Mhm.
they don't want to reach out to you because you ain't on
Ain't on
their
that level.
level.
Mhm.
Shaw has never been like that. Never been like that.
Right.
And it's like, I mean, you go to a party, even here in Charlotte, if his name is on anything around here, half of Orangeburg that live here is there. That's how much love people show Shaw.
Mhm.
You
Wow.
know,
Yes.
he's
Yes,
just a
sir.
kind person.
Yes, sir. Shout out to DJ Shakim. If you want to come on beyond the album cover, I got a spot for you, sir. Now you mentioned the college parties. So you're one of those ones that went to a college Thursday night party, went to your Friday morning class, still with the nightclub wristband on, struggling trying to make it.
Bruh.
Statute of limitations is up. You can tell on yourself.
Oh, we had this spot in Orangeburg, the Silver Spur.
Hmm.
Boy, when I tell you, it was an all-white club at one point in time.
I was about to say the name sounds very honky tonk.
Yeah, it was an all-white club. And when they started letting us come in and have parties there, I don't think they ever went back. Because they just shy there by just shy of him being there brought in so many people because he had so many followers. He had
Mm,
so many followers. And whenever I was there one night, Foxy Brown was there. I mean, we not like we brought artists. They brought artists down there. They brought some heavy name artists came down and performed. I remember the night uh Foxy, like I say, Foxy Brown was there. Um, Dougie Fresh came, which I already knew, Dougie Fresh, um, because my brother-in-law brother was the road manager for Dougie Fresh back in the day.
mm.
So whenever Doug Fresh came to, South Carolina, he always, go by my sister house, da da da, you know, because my brother-in-law brother used to always come down, so we always go over there because Jarrell was in town. So, but grounded, Doug is just so knowledgeable, so cool. I mean, I, some people I just can't say nothing bad about
Right.
because that's just who they were.
Hmm. And you mentioned, artists coming down to Orangeburg. Now, was there times where people in Orangeburg would go to Columbia to go clubbing or go down to Charleston, or was pretty much the nightclub scene pretty much kept in Orangeburg?
No, no. Columbia had a lot of spots. Um, Shout out to DJ Prince Ice from the Big DM. That's a legend right there. He's been on the radio station for umpteen years, like over 50, I want to say now, over 50 years. Um, but he was the person that broke a lot of records on the radio for us that we would have never known about, you know. Um, but we partied in Charleston. I didn't really part. I partied in Charleston a little bit, but Columbia was more my thing.
Mhm.
I partied more in Columbia and in Orangeburg than I did in Charleston.
Yeah, because with Columbia, you also got a added demo because of Fort Jackson being right there too.
And then you had some back then you had a lot of good DJs in the Columbia area. Yeah, DJ B Lord, he was on Hot 103.9. Um Frosty, DJ Frosty. Um Prince Ice was at the Big DM. Man, you had so many good DJs back then.
Mhm.
Matter of fact, the scientist, um, he's the DJ for Yin Yang Twins.
Okay.
So he was in upstate. He was in Spartanburg, Greenville area. I've been to some of his parties up there, man. And this is why I say a lot of these DJs, I just sit back and just watch
Mhm.
because I was just trying to learn. Everybody had their own different thing that they did.
Mhm.
And you know, right now to this day, I still learn different DJs.
Right. Right.
You
And
know,
Right, yeah, and I believe the rapper that did the Roger Crank that roar, I think they're from South Carolina, I think.
Yeah, yeah, they from Orangeburg. That's actually where that song came from. That's it came from. It was this dude named Roy, and he's always been in the club. This older dude, and that was his little dance, and that's when they just made a song out of it, and it just blew up.
I hated that record. I was in college when that record came out. This was right around peak Atlanta Crunk Snap. I
Yeah,
still can't see a Chico stick without hearing doop doop doop. I'm like, nope, nope. Still to this day, no, I can't do it, can't do it. But that Crank That War record, that record was a big phenomenon. This is also right around the time when Soldier Boy was cranking with Crank That, and to think with Soldier Boy, he was viral before viral because this was when social media was still in its infancy and MySpace was still popping, and Facebook was only if you were a college student. If you know, you know. But I think my era of college, early 2000s, that was kind of like the last era of being able to go out, do things without having to put it on the gram or flex for everybody, where you could really just have a good night out and pretty much not have everybody be in your business. Whereas
yeah,
I don't really know if kids now really go out like that because it's more so about now, at least from the outsider looking in, where we're pretty much posting on social media and it's where we're not really getting in somebody's club in a sweat box dancing. And I think now too the art of the slow dance is lost too, because we kind of, well, at least me, I got that last bit of where you really had to be on your game if you was gonna go up to a lady and ask her to slow dance, and you was gonna get that rejection at the end of the night, but you better learn quick.
of course, of course. Back then, you could just dance and have fun. People actually dance back then.
Mm,
They actually dance. Like nowadays, they don't really dance like they used to.
mm,
Back then, no social media. You can be who you want to be.
mm,
And, I mean, you could just have fun.
mm,
And back then you didn't have a whole lot of that rah-rah stuff either.
mm.
You didn't have a whole lot of that rah. And if you did, it
Right.
really wasn't shooting. It was more here, 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 here. And then after that, 3 days later, oh man, what's up, dog? How you doing, dog?
Mm,
You know, and it's so much different. And just like you said about the slow dance. Come on, man. The last 5 songs, you already knew what it was. Because the
mm,
first song they gonna play was who? Lenny Williams.
mm.
If they didn't play Lenny first, the last song you heard was gonna be Lenny.
Right. Right. Now, I want to get your take on the crunk era because when you hear and think about crunk era, Little John and all the associated acts that come out of that, it was more akin to punk rock. If you think about it, the whole spirit, the whole energy, and the dance floor at the club was like the mosh pit because whenever Nuck If You Buck, Be a Beer, Head Buster, No Problem, Never Scared, Re Ready, Damn by the Young Bloods,
Yep.
Tear the
Yep.
Club Up, 3 6 Mafia, No More Playing GA, Pastor Troy, Never Ever Trillville. We could go down the list. Whenever any of those records came on, it was gonna be some furniture moving.
Oh yes, sir. Yes, sir. And it's fun that you say that because I remember it used to get so bad to they banned uh Tear the Club Up by 3 6. They banned that from all the clubs. Yo, you couldn't play that in here. And the reason why, because like you said, once they heard it,
You knew
I,
what time it was.
you go to that. It was on.
Yep.
It was on.
Yep, it was pure black Air Force One's energy because when I went to Memphis a couple of years ago for vacation, I went past the arcade restaurant and I told my wife, like, oh, that's what they did to the club up 3 6 Mafia the video. Pouring it out too. And when you just think about Three Six and Memphis hip hop, and just see where that is now with Glorilla, Yo Gotti, and then of course we got to mention alongside Three Six Mafia for helping pave the way for Memphis hip hop. You have DJ Spanish Fly, and of course 8 Ball, MJG.
Oh my
When
God.
you think about coming out hard, to me one of the pillars when you think of Southern rap albums, that record, you have Seven Playalistic, you got The Diary, Scarface out of Houston, but Memphis hip hop, along with these other locales, pretty much was able to spread and share what was different with hip hop within their communities, within their regions. Now, at this point in time, when you were at Clapton, was a lot of West Coast stuff getting played outside of what you heard bumping on the radio via like Dre, Snoop, Tupac, the usual suspects from the West Coast, or was any of like the underground West Coast acts making their way east when it was still a little bit of a tough sell for West Coast acts to really break play outside of that region of the country?
Um, West Coast music was being played. It really was. People didn't realize, and probably some people didn't know who the artist was, back then. But King T had a little buzz. Um, it was King T. Um, oh my gosh. You already had, your Dr. Dre, Snoop, NWA. They had a little buzz, but you had a lot of West Coast music that was actually buzzing.
Hmm.
A lot of West Coast music that was buzzing.
Yeah, like AMG, CMW, Spice One, MC8,
And
because when you think
yeah,
about those records, very,
Ice
very
Cube too.
Ice
Ice
Cube
Cube.
as
Oh
well.
my God, Ice Cube. Yes.
Now, when you think about Ice Cube, the crazy thing once he left NWA, and hooked up with the Bomb Squad to do America's Most Wanted, that was
A-
considered like, yo, this is crazy because you got a West Coast MC hooking up with East Coast based producers, the Bomb Squad, Hank, Keith Shockley, Eric Sadler, and just giving them that sound where I was like, like, okay, this is crazy. And Cypress Hill as well. Based out of LA, DJ Muggs is
Mhm.
from New York. And they had that gritty, dirty East Coast sound to go along with, Be Real and Send Dog's flow
Yeah.
and just really just like, yo, this is crazy. This is dope. But it kind of felt like once rap kind of got a little bit more mainstream, you kind of lost that regionality because in the regionality sense of things, you had that demarcation of, okay, I know this is a New Orleans style record. I know this is a Bay Area style sounding record. I know this is a Southern California, LA sounding record. I know this is a Miami record. I know this is a Houston record. I know this is an Atlanta record. I know this is a New York record. To where once everything got more popularized, you kind of lost that distinction, which, when you think about the run that No Limit and Cash Money had, even though they both came from New Orleans, two totally different, distinct sounds. Can you talk about the differences and similarities between Cash Money and No Limit and what they meant to the industry at large?
Oh man, it meant a lot to the industry. Um, what Master P did, just him owning his own label. He didn't have to go to other people. People started coming to him. And what he did with music, the business part of it. You know what I'm saying? Just just with that by itself made things open up for other people. And I mean, some people may not say this, but to me, I think that's how Birdman got where he was at because Pete opened up the doors of, showing everybody, hey, I don't need y'all. I could do this myself. Only
Hmm.
thing y'all did for me was just distribution deal. you know. But he when P came out and did that, um, it's to me, it seemed like every month, No Limit had a new album coming out by somebody on that team. Somebody different was dropping, seemed like every month, somebody different. Cain and Abel, you know, Mia.
Fiend, Matt,
Yeah,
Mercedes.
yeah. It was like, how do you do that? But I understood what he was doing now because he was making that buzz.
Mhm.
Oh, this is what we are all about. Now you go over here to Cash Money, New Orleans. They did both of them, Louisiana. Their sound was a little different. Their sound was different than what you would get from um, No Limit. Um, they dropped some hot joints. They dropped some hot joints. Now, to me, on that verses, me personally, it was okay.
Mhm.
I think it could have been a little bit better. I think it would have been a whole lot better if it was in the with a New Orleans Saints play at
in
the
the
Dome,
in the Caesar Superdome.
in the Superdome, something like that. Because I don't, you can tell the people that was there. I don't think they really knew where they was at. If that makes sense to you,
Mhm.
I don't really know if they knew, Master P, Mill X, them, the songs that they really put out. I don't
Mhm.
think yeah, they probably knew some of the Cash Money artists, but it just seemed like it would have been a whole different vibe
Mhm.
if it was done in New Orleans.
Right, because I was listening to Bomani Jones' podcast a couple of weeks ago, and he made the point that, outside of Make 'em Say, No Limit never really had that national stronghold foothold as far as singles wise that No Limit had. Because when you think of a lot of the No Limit records outside of Make 'em Say, a lot of them were pretty much where if you live within that demographic, that listener area, like New Orleans, Houston, Alabama, Mississippi, in and around there, you was gonna know a lot of those records. You know how you do that there, Ice Cream Man, Somebody's Watching Me, Bourbons and Lax.
Yeah.
Because that wasn't really more of a mainstream national type of record. But once Cash Money came onto the scene with, make say Hot Boys. They just had a look and a sound that was more national ready. While
Yeah.
No Limit was more of okay,
They
this is
was
gonna be for our core audience where you're probably gonna hear it if you heard it played on your local station or heard it at your mom and pop record shop.
and that's where that's how we got with to No Limit in that South Carolina. The radio station started playing it. Mom and pop rec stores, they was in there selling it. Matter of fact, I want to say, if I'm not mistaken, they had Master P to come through and he was signing autographs. If you brought something so back then that was one of the bigger things too that they used to do. Have the artists come through, sign. So that's how their name got out there. But you're right. That's how it was. It was more or less like No Limit, like they were still getting their feet off the ground,
Mm-hmm.
but it was buzzing hard.
Mm-hmm.
It was really buzzing um, in the South.
Mm-hmm.
And and you already know, man, from the South, you get something with a crunk beat, with a nice beat to it and a nice hook. It can ride,
Mm-hmm.
you know. That's how the South music has always been.
Hmm. Right. And I also want to go back. We was talking about, West Coast MCs and how I at least think, in my opinion, the Bay Area has always been a big source of DIY, do it yourself with, Hammer, Too Short, E40, selling out the trunk, going to a one stop shop, putting it
Mhm.
out. But back to Hammer and how, he was really the first to really open the doors to show people the possibilities of this is where rap can take you. You got to have a little bit of this in order to go to areas where your BDPs, your NWAs, your public enemies won't be able to go because let's be honest and real, that stuff, while it is seductive to little Johnny and Susie in Iowa, it scares their parents. But Hammer was safe and made music that, okay, I can let you listen to this, but don't be fooled. Hammer, you've heard stories from various folks that say Hammer was the one that would move in silence, but he he's well connected, if you know what I mean. And don't test him if you want him, because Hammer will hurt you. Don't test him. Don't test
And
that
you
man.
know, and you know what the crazy part about that was? Back then, Ham had a lot of haters. He had a lot of people that didn't really care for him. He had a lot of people that didn't care for his music. But the more you listen to it, you start nodding your head to it.
Hmm.
I ain't never go do them dances, nothing like that, because that wasn't my thing. But when you see other people start vibing to it,
Hmm.
and not only just black people, you had white people
Hmm.
who was really digging it.
Hmm.
And, you know, and I don't fault him for, doing what he did. And, because he made money off of it. He made money off it. Now, granted, I would not have some of those songs I didn't really care for back then, but when I listen to it now, I appreciate it more now than I did back then.
Hmm.
Because I was more into, I listened to some West Coast, but I've always been that East Coast head person.
Hmm.
Then West Coast, I can listen to some of that, you know, and then, Dirty South,
Hmm.
you had no other choice, but man, get back to Hammer, man. Hammer just really changed the game in a lot of ways. And I mean, some people say, he had crossed over. He might have crossed over, but his bank account, banking account crossed right along with him.
Yeah. Yeah, those Taco Bell, British Knights, and Pepsi checks were clearing just fine.
Yes, yes, sir. Yes, sir. I mean, and then you paying all these people that you knew. You know what I'm saying? It's like, back then I didn't understand it because I wasn't making money like that, or I wasn't in tune to, what he was doing. But then when you look at it now, say, "Damn, that man was helping out a lot of these people who probably was actually poor."
Right. Yeah, he definitely helped a lot of people. And what he was doing then is the standard today. I mean, the man had his own Tiger electronic handheld game, Saturday morning cartoon.
What? Um, it, we don't even understand that at a young age.
Mhm.
But you understand them like me. I understand them more now
Right.
than I did back then.
Right.
That man was just marketing himself,
Right.
and the more he had marketed, the more money he was getting. He was bringing in.
Hmm. Yeah. And another one that I think doesn't get talked about enough with their run and what they meant to the game. They came up in the same camp with Salt and Pepper, with Herbie Lovebug, Idol Makers, Kwame. You probably know who I'm talking about. Kid and Play.
Yes, yes. They don't get the buzz. I mean, I could give you a couple of people I don't think get the buzz that they really deserve to have. But like I said, Kid and Play, they don't get it. They don't get that buzz like, you expect them to get.
Mhm.
Hey, to me, they should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame right now too.
Yeah, yeah, right along with Salt and Pepper. I mean, Kid and Play had their own Saturday morning cartoon, Sprite commercials, House Party 1, House Party 2,
Yeah,
gave us the classic House Party 3, Class Act, another classic, and like I said, along with Hammer and of course Gigi Jazz Jeff and the Fresh Prince, help rap go to places where your harder edge acts couldn't necessarily go.
no, no, no. Um, to do what they did, a lot of people could or wouldn't have it with that route. You
Mm,
know what I'm saying? You know, now you have your Will Smith, your Ice Cube, who produce direct movies now. You
mhm,
know what I'm saying? Snoop, you know, it's like these people has really showed that hey, just because we rap, that don't mean this is all we know.
right,
You know what I'm saying?
right,
We do bigger and do better things.
right.
And a lot a lot of these rappers now are turned to what actor.
Right, right. It was frowned upon to cross pollinate with different sections, whereas now, if you can't rap, act, sing, do all these different disciplines, you're of no use. And I think for me, a watershed moment for hip hop was a couple years ago during the Super Bowl halftime show when you saw Dre, Snoop, Eminem, 50. And when I was sitting there watching, I'm thinking, like, man, you couldn't have told 6, 7-year-old me watching MTV BT seeing What's My Name video for Snoop, Let Me Ride, Dr. Dre, and to say, man, these two men are going to one day headline Super Bowl halftime show to where a lot of people know Dr. Dre based on the Beats by Dre headphones. A lot of
Yeah.
people look at Snoop as America's sweetheart with Martha Stewart. I mean, this is the same man that told folks it ain't no fun if the homies can't get none. I mean, now it's fun when everybody can have some. So, it's crazy to see just how you know, industry changes, how now these are well respected businessmen, all around entertainers. And to say with the lineage, if it wasn't for, Dr. Dre, no Snoop, no Eminem, no
No
50
50.
Cent, no Kendrick Lamar. And
Yeah.
just that lineage comes from Dre.
And that's true. And that's true. I was watching something the other day. Snoop was on Snoop was on a he was on oh, I forgot. I can't call his name right now. Cam Hayward, the football player for
Mm-hmm,
Pittsburgh. He was on his podcast the other day.
mm-hmm,
And he was talking about how he said, man, I had no in a million years I've never thought I will be uh performing at the Super Bowl.
mm-hmm,
You know what I'm saying? And now on that, Snoop was the Olympics. Yo, the Olympics. He was the head man over there.
mm-hmm,
You know, and it's crazy because Snoop also was talking about Master P and how Master P has really changed his life and taught him business.
mm-hmm,
And once P taught me that, I just ran with it. P
mm-hmm,
taught him the business side, how to promote himself, do certain things. And
mm-hmm.
he said, That's why a lot of people didn't know he was going. I had a feeling
Mhm,
he was going to be at that versus
mhm,
because when Snoop was down, when him and Dre want to do no more music together, P came and lifted that man up.
mhm,
You know, you have to be, you don't see that often now. You don't
mhm,
see that, so once you get somebody that will school you on the game, teach you the game. I mean, not just with the music, with just life. Period. When you got somebody that just want to just lift you up and talk to you, show you, teach you these things, man, take heed to it because we all are still learners at some
mhm,
way, some form, somehow.
mhm. Yeah, and then when you think about too, with the whole Southern movement, we think about, like I mentioned Memphis earlier, mentioned Houston, we get Jay Prince and Rap a Lot. But I think this one person doesn't get enough credit. We only look at him as one thing, but he was also a big pioneer in helping Southern music gain a foothold in the consciousness. And I'm talking about Uncle Luke.
Oh yeah, Uncle Luke broke the major barriers for y'all to say what y'all want to say on these records. Uncle Luke was a man. If it was for him, y'all couldn't be saying a lot of this stuff that y'all want to say on these records. Uncle Luke, he showed us what Miami bass was. You know,
Mm.
Uncle Luke, and if you've never been to an Uncle Luke concert, I feel
It's 18 and up. It ain't safe for work. I mean, some of the stuff we can't do now because it's considered, not appropriate. But back in the day, nobody wasn't caring about that.
boy, I was at one of his concerts, so I already know how that is. But it just, you know, Luke really he really took Miami, and not just Miami, but just Miami, just Florida, period, but really Miami under his wings, and he just created something beautiful.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? You know, and right now to this day, you can go, I go do a party. Somebody say, "Can you play some twerk music?" Okay. I might play some Uncle Luke with it.
Hmm.
You still get the same reaction you did in the early 90s.
Yeah, yeah, because there was the episode of Peyton's Places on ESPN where Peyton Manning was learning how to do the tush push from Jason Kelsey, Travis Kelsey's brother, who played for the Philadelphia Eagles. And then
Mhm.
during one of the drills, Jason Kelsey was telling Peyton, face down, up. That's the way I like to block. And I was like, okay. So you must have had that Two Live Crew record in between Garth Brooks and New Kids on the Block.
Hey, that Two Live Crew, man, made everybody happy. Every guy, if you ain't never heard it, but you learn it then.
Hey, we want some you know what?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
some of y'all probably was sneaking and watching Uncle Luke's Peep Show on pay-per-view when your mom
Oh,
and daddy was gone out of town, but hey, come by the house. And you probably end up taping it over your little cousin's Disney sing along volume one tape, take it around to your friend's house, thinking like,
oh,
Mickey ain't singing it's a small world after all, or they're singing something else.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. But when you think about Uncle Luke and how he took it to the Supreme Court and
yeah,
won and really showed, a lot of all of rap period that you can say what you want to say and not feel restricted. And then you mentioned Miami, how he literally put Miami on his back.
yeah.
And because of that, we got Trick Daddy, Pitbull, Trina,
Mm-hmm.
Rick Ross. And also, if it
JT,
wasn't for Luke Records, there probably wouldn't be no Slip and Slide.
no, JT Money, all
Hmm.
of them. But man, I don't think Uncle Luke get the respect, the acknowledgement that
Hmm.
he actually deserved as well.
Hmm.
Because half of y'all can't, Glorilla can say what she want to say on her record because of who?
Uncle Luke.
Luke, Uncle Luke. And back then, it was kind of unheard of trying to fight somebody through the Supreme Court.
Hmm.
Unheard of. Cause you know why? Cause we small people. We ain't got no money. Go no Supreme Court trying to fight something.
Hmm.
You know, but Luke worked his butt off and hey, I'm gonna fight this. And he will not take no for an answer.
Right.
And
Right.
I respect him for that.
Right. And then also too in Miami at the time too, you also had the popularity of Miami Vice, and then what was going on with those University of Miami football teams, all
Yeah,
that coalescing right around the same time because it was very rebellious. It was very anti-establishment,
yeah.
very pro-black, in that we're gonna do it our way. We're gonna thumb our nose at what's considered, proper, what's considered mainstream, and then also to segue at the same time as well, when Arsenio Hall debuted on late night, it was a breath of fresh air because it was a show
Yeah.
that was for the culture. I mean, it's standard practice now to get rap acts to perform on late night TV, but back in the late 80s, early 90s, it was still a rarity for rap and urban acts to really get that type of exposure.
Man, let me tell you something. The Arsenio Hall show, you look at your TV guide, the little book TV guide,
Hmm.
see who he was gonna have on there. And if it was a rapper or somebody that you really want to see, you way up to what, 10, 11, just to see the show. Cause you just want to, you know what I'm saying? I mean, just looking back over these years, and I'd have been on this earth for 52 years now.
Mm.
And just looking back, man, those were some beautiful moments that we'll never get back.
Mm-mm.
We'll never get those days back, man. It's a lot of stuff that we will never get back. And you know, our kids will never understand what we're talking about because they will never live that.
Yeah, you weren't there, just like how, at the same time when Bad Boy was on and popping, you had Rough Riders, and that was a pretty much a distinct sound from the glossy, pop-oriented sound of Bad Boy. I mean, despite the personal stuff that went on and what we know now, you can't erase the impact of Diddy and what he meant to the culture with Bad Boy.
No, you can't. You can't. And I mean, I'll say the same thing about R. Kelly. I don't care what that man done, how he did it, but half of the population probably is from him and his music.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like that 12 play album by itself
Hmm.
created so many kids.
Right,
You know what I'm saying?
right.
I mean, you can't knock that man for how. I mean, he was just flat out just talented. He was just talented. He was like one of the best R&B. I can't even just say singer, producer. He did everything. Um, in that era, man, that '90s era, man, is of just music. We'll never see that no more.
No, I mean
You
to
know,
go from secular to the saved, and then coming off of the heels of New Jack Swing, because when you listen to R. Kelly when he first came out, a lot of people thought that he was biting Aaron Hall.
yeah, yeah. You would think that because the way their singing style was kind of similar.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I could see somebody saying that, but you had too much I mean, the competition level was up to here in the 90s.
Yeah, it was thick.
Yeah, I mean,
From solo artists to groups on down.
from everybody. I remember when, Gina Thompson first dropped her first single and Missy was on it, and I'm like, what is that?
Mm,
Boom, 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 and then you had somebody else come behind her with something else. Like, I mean,
right.
it a lot of things, and this is why, like I said, I used to have, and I still have my tapes and stuff like that. But that's why I used to buy so many different mixtapes because a lot of DJs played joints that other they try to frame away
Mm,
from mainstream songs.
right.
Like you might get like one or two in the first five songs. You might get about one or two mainstream songs, but then they'll throw that, that side B song on there that you're not going to hear on the radio.
Mm,
You know what I'm saying? So they play different cuts that you never heard on the radio, but those songs made some major buzzes.
right. And the good thing about being musically diverse is that you're not closed off to different sounds, different artists, whereas you're exposed to, okay, I may not know who, Mac Dre or, Souls of Mischief because not a lot of West Coast acts like that get played outside of that part of the country, but because I got turned on to them, hey, I want to know more. I want to hear more. I want to see more because you mentioned King T earlier, and I was thinking about At Your Own Risk. Although that was an album cut that a lot of people, if you really was in the know, you knew. But to me, it didn't really catch on nationally until BT ended up using that as the theme for Rap City. Cause that's where I first heard that record as a little kid. When hearing the thing for Rap City with King T At Your Own Risk, and then just to see where hip hop is now globally, to where you can go into any country in the world, you can hear a rap record being sung in a native language, and you get to see hip hop being expressed in different parts of the world, adding their own cultural spin
Hmm.
to it. And I want for you to explain to me what's it like for you to see hip hop in its infancy to where now we have multi generations of kids growing up to it. We have academic courses on hip hop. We have doctors who got PhDs because of hip hop, and to just see how for a genre of music that once came from the concrete, the ashes of buildings being burned in the ghettos of New York, to where music programs were being defunded, and our black and brown brothers and sisters were coming up with this genre that said, hey, we're going to make something out of nothing.
And they did. And just to see the growth from music from my era of the 80s um, up until now, yeah, I can't get with the new style as much. I can deal with certain things, but then it reminds me of when I was a young child.
Mhm.
My dad used to say, turn that mess off. I can't stand that kind of music. But that was the early golden eras of Run DMC, you know, the golden era of just rap music. And for him fussing, no lie whatsoever. I was sitting at the kitchen table, had my boom box up there.
Mm,
I had a big boom box, had my tape playing. So that's the only way I would do some homework. I
mm,
had to have some music playing for me to do my homework.
mm.
Gerald, why did I get in trouble for playing Picking Boogers by Biz
And Biz Markie was clean.
Oh, my daddy fussed me out. If you don't turn that mess off, that just gross. And that like it's just a song. It ain't like he said something, you know,
Nothing
it ain't
obscene. I
sexual,
mean,
nothing
I'm
like
surprised he didn't tell you to play some Bobby Blue Bland. If
hey,
you know what I'm talking about.
yeah. Hey, and it was like I got in trouble for that just now. But it just shows that my parents was older, so the music we would listen to, they couldn't relate to.
Right. It didn't speak to
So
him.
yeah, so now my youngest son he'll be 22 tomorrow.
Hmm.
Son music he be playing, listen to. Say, son, that's some trash. That's like, what do you listen to? Like, what is this? Da, da, da.
Mm.
But it just shows you music change with time. My era and these kids' era is gonna be very similar because this is the music that they are listening to. This is the
Mm.
music they are growing up on.
Right.
You know,
Right.
the era I grew up on, the same, my parents say the same thing to me. I'm saying to my kids about their music right now.
Hmm.
So
Yep.
that just show you the growth in the music. Now, granted, everything that I listened to was always the perfect song to hear, you
Hmm.
know, you know, but um I got in trouble for listening to Biggie, but he didn't like all that vulgar,
Hmm.
so I could understand that. But um
Hmm.
in now as well that I am realizing that the way the music is now, well, these kids are now too. The kids are not just listening to their music.
Hmm.
The kids know our music as well.
Right.
Because you have a lot of these songs now, they still sampling our era of the 90s, the early 2000s. They
Hmm.
still sampling some of those. Matter of fact, they still use some of them, they still use some type of, of the hooks. You know what I'm saying? So the 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 music part with these young kids too. Matter of fact, I did an 18-year-old party. And I always tell any of my clients, especially from 16, 18-year-old parties that I actually do, I said, hey, send me about 20, 30 songs that y'all like or you might want to hear.
Hmm.
Those songs be like, damn, I already got that. Some kind of party this is. It's some older stuff. Ashanti, unfoolish, you know what I'm saying? They still, Tevin Campbell. They asked for these songs. I'm like,
Yeah, which is crazy because
what you doing that?
like Ashanti, Ja Rule, Nelly, all that's old school now. While me, I was at their age in real time when
Yeah,
that was out, and it makes me feel like, oh, I'm definitely up now.
yeah, exactly. That's like how you feel. And that shows too that not all the kids are into that what drill rap or you know
Right,
Glorilla. They
right,
like other music too. They
right.
like everything. And now you have a lot of these kids. I mean, they don't care. Pop music. Britney Spears and they listen to all of that.
Yeah,
Justin Bieber.
it's the erasing of the genre lines where everything is being mixed in with one another. And thinking about rap now, especially a lot of like the singy songy rap and it's very structured with melodies and everything like that. It makes me think, had PM Dawn been out today, PM Dawn would have been bigger, I think, in my opinion. Because
Think so?
If you think about PM Dawn, what they did, I think that set the stage for what we would later hear with Drake and also with The Weeknd.
Mm, mm,
Because when you think about Set Adrift from Memory
yeah,
Bliss sampling Spandau Ballet True, they did I'll Die Without You for Boomerang. And those records, although they were, Set Adrift was a rap record, it had that pop feel appeal to it. I mean, but they had to go to the UK first to get
yeah,
signed to G
true,
Street. And
true.
then once Set Adrift blew up, that was when everybody in the States came knocking on the door. And then that's when the blow up for them came out. And then looking through Patient Eyes, perfect flip of rest in peace, George Michael's father figure, you know. And I mean, PM Dawn, just a great group who I felt was, a little bit ahead of the curve.
Now that you say that, that do make sense though. That do make sense. Because
Mm,
if you really listen to some of the pop songs, it's not far fetched from what they was putting out.
mm,
And it really wasn't.
right. Yeah, it really wasn't. Now, last thing I want to get you out of here on, we're definitely going to do a part two. We can go more in depth, but last thing I want to get you out on. So let's just talk about the legacy of Wu Tang.
Let me tell you something. It wasn't last year, the year before last. I'm a huge Nas fan. One of my favorite rappers of all time. And when they had Nas and Wu-Tang here in Charlotte, I said, I don't care if I'm going by myself.
You
I'm
go.
it. And I was there by myself. And when I tell you, man, that was my second best concert I ever went to. Man, with Wu to have about 50 different rappers that can flow, you had so much talent in one camp. You know what I'm saying? And for each person to get their own personal deal from different record labels, man, what to see RZA from Prince Raheem in, you know, I'm a big time Marley Marl, Cold Chillin', Juice Crew fan. To see him go from Cold Chillin' Records and don't make no buzz to he went back into the lab, revamp himself, and to just bring out all these different, what I'll say about 10 different artists in that camp, man. It was like unheard of.
Hmm.
It was unheard of.
Hmm. I
And
agree.
I mean, you be scared that they was on what I saw them on when they did the Source Awards. Is no way I would have gotten on stage. It was about 150 people up there.
Hmm.
And I mean, you had Wu, then you had the other groups that branched out from the Wu-Tang Clan
Hmm.
that was up there, man. The killer, that era, man. We'll never see, I don't think we'll ever see that ever again, Harper.
No, because when you think about Wu Tang, they have nine different MCs that can spit, and to where they each had individual deals on individual labels, because typically what happens would be with that, if you were a group signed to a label, the label would have what's called right of first refusal, where that if a member leaves group, then label has option to pick up group members solo record. But instead of being tied to one record, RZA smartly said, no, 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 no. We want to spread our tentacles out to different labels and diversify the bonds, because you had ODB on Elektra. You had Jizzle with his own solo deal. I forgot what label he was signed to. Method Man, Def Jam, Raekwon solo deal, Ghostface solo deal, and all the other Wu members. And, you know, I thought about 2 Chainz as the greatest rebrand in hip hop history, but then dawned on me until you said it, RZA is the greatest rebrand in hip hop history, because you mentioned he first came out as
Prince Raheem,
Prince Rakeem, had the
Rakim,
"Oh We Love You Rakeem" record, didn't do nothing.
do
GZA
not.
had a record out called "Come Do Me," which was like in the style of Father MC,
Yeah,
and how when both of those records didn't move, they both went back into the lab, like you said, say we gonna rebrand ourselves. And that was when Wu Tang came out with Protect Your Neck, and it's been history ever since.
yeah, yeah. I mean, man, the grave diggers. I mean, killers, killer priests. Killers. You had so many different members that wasn't even on that you didn't even hear that much,
Mm,
but their music made buzzes. You know what
mm,
I'm saying? And Wu is they are definitely one of the best groups, and you don't see a whole lot, or you never heard of a whole lot of bumping heads. And usually, when you have that many people in a group,
mm,
there's a lot of this right here going on.
mm.
But you didn't hear about a whole lot. Now, I'm not saying that they
Right.
didn't have their own, spats, because I know that they did, but nothing to the point where, I'm out the group, da da da,
Right.
or I ain't even fooling with them no more. I mean, and the only person that really did that was ODB, but ODB was something different.
Mm,
ODB was something different. He just went with his own train of thought, from what I see.
mm.
He
Yeah.
just wanted to do this. I don't want to do that no more.
Right.
That-
Hmm. And now Wu Tang, Ben and Jerry's, Haagen Dazs, y'all can get with Wu and really do that ice cream that Raekwon was talking about, that French vanilla butter pecan chocolate
Mm.
deluxe. Watch these rap ninjas get all up in the K cups, French vanilla butter pecan chocolate deluxe. Even caramel sundaes get in touch, scoop in the ice cream jug. You know what's up. They had to clean it up because it was it wasn't sanitary for those that like to go to Baskin Robbins and all that stuff. So before we conclude the interview, DJ Big Al, any shout outs you want to give, plug your social, and we're definitely going to do a part 2 to this, right?
Okay, okay. But we just said talking. I ain't got you recording this, man. We was just vibing, and I just appreciate you, man. Um, this shout out to all my people, back home, my mom, my kids, um, my sisters, my brother, all my friends, family, and I don't really do this, so this ain't my thing, but like
Right.
I told you, I'll do this for you, and brother, you made this easy for me. I'll tell you like that. Um, my social media is Al Owens, uh, on Facebook, DJ Big Al LLC. No, DJ Big Al Entertainment LLC, on Facebook, on Instagram, Albert Owens, the number 8. I'll have my YouTube channel out too, DJ Big Al, um, um, on YouTube as well.
Okay. You can catch them on all those platforms, and you catch this podcast wherever you stream and on the official YouTube channel at youtube.com/beyond the album cover. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's give a big thank you. He don't really do that many of these. Like he mentioned, the one, the only DJ, Big Al. Big Al, thank you very much for coming on Beyond the Album Cover. And you're welcome to come back anytime, and we definitely will do a part two because we left a
Oh,
lot of
yes,
meat
sir.
on the bone.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Anytime, man. I appreciate you for just having me. It was so much fun, man. But like I said, we're gonna keep in contact. We got some more stuff we're gonna do.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And people, keep it locked.